Are you looking for a build that makes tormented bosses die just by looking at them? How about a build that makes Lilith just melt in a couple seconds? A build that freezes through tier 8s? Well, I have the Druid build for you. Wait, Druid? That's right, Druids are back. Before we hop into the gameplay, I wanted to give credit to my fellow Mobalytics creator Ace of Spades for the build. Make sure you go check him out for all things Druid. Here's a clip of the tier 8 bosses killed by King Happy, one of the officers of my clan who submitted this clip. It is pretty crazy to see. Check it out. Alright, start off, we're going to go over the skill tree. We're going to start with 1 point into Claw, 1 point into Enhanced Claw. This is going to unlock the next section for our skills. Most of the damage is going to come from Lightning Storm. We're going to max out Lightning Storm, 5 points here, all the way down through Raging Lightning Storm. This is going to grant 1 additional Lightning Strike. We're going to do 1 point into Landslide, and then we're going to do 1 point into Enhanced Landslide. We're going to do 1 point into Earthen Bulwark, and then 1 point into Enhanced Earthen Bulwark. This will grant us Unstoppable. We're going to take 1 point into Bloodhowl. We're going to go all the way down through Preserving Bloodhowl. This is going to give us 15% increased attack speed. One key note about this, we took Enhanced Bloodhowl. Kills reduce the cooldown of Bloodhowl by 1 second. When we're inside something like the Infernal Hordes, where we're killing things all the time, this is going to be pretty much off cooldown at least every 4 seconds, so we'll always have this 15% attack speed up. We're going to do 1 point in Ancestral Fortitude to unlock Vigilance. We're going to put 3 points here for 21% damage reduction for 6 seconds after using a defensive skill. What we're going to be using is we're actually going to be using Cyclone Armor as our defensive skill. This is going to be something that we're not going to put any points into, but I'll get into how we're going to get Cyclone Armor onto our skill bar later on. But we're basically going to be spamming Cyclone Armor as fast as we can click that button. It's pretty fun to see. Coming down, we're going to go 3 points into Nature's Reach. You deal 15% increased damage to distant enemies. Double that bonus if they are also stunned, slowed, immobilized, or knocked back. We've already touched on immobilized. So by casting Landslide, we're getting immobilized. This is going to be giving us 30% increased damage instead of 15. We're going to be spamming Cyclone Armor. The winds rapidly expand, knocking enemies back. This is also going to give us 30% increased damage from Nature's Reach because it is a knockback and an immobilize already, and we're not even done yet. Coming down, we're going to go into Elemental Exposure. We're going to put 3 points here. This is going to give us 10% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds. Our lightning skills are going to be cast constantly, but it's only going to be cast from Landslide. We'll get to that later. We're going to do 1 point into Crushing Earth. We're going to do 1 point into Safeguard. This is going to give us critical strikes with Earth skills, fortify you for 3% of your maximum life. We are going to be casting Earth skills as fast as we possibly can, so we will always be fortified. We're going to do 3 points into Stone Guard. While you have Fortify over 50% of your max life, your Earth skills deal additional 12% increased damage. We're going to do 1 point into Neurotoxin, and then we're going to do 3 points into Envenom. When we get into the Paragon board, I'll show you exactly where all of our poison damage is going to come from. We're not actually going to be taking anything like Poison Creeper onto our skill bar. We're going to do 3 points into Mending. While in Werebear form, you receive 18% additional healing from all sources. You also gain 12% of your maximum life. For the build here that I'm going to be running, I'm going to be taking Trample. This is going to help us get from one event to the other while we're inside the Infernal Hordes. It also is a great source of Unstoppable. And not only do we get Unstoppable whenever we use Trample, but it will take us outside of whatever was hitting us, whatever stunned us, whatever we're caught inside of. So it's a great movement speed. It's great sources of Unstoppable. It's a great way to keep yourself safe. Coming down, we're going to be going into Petrify. All the way up through Supreme Petrify. This is where we're going to get our third form of CC for Nature's Reach to increase it by that 30% multiplicative instead of that 15. Whenever we use Petrify, we now have a stun also. So we're going to get a stun. We're also going to get 50 spirit every single time that we use Petrify. And then as we kill enemies, Petrify is going to be cooled down as long as they're under the effects of Petrify. In the Infernal Hordes, you kill things so quickly that Petrify comes up very quickly, so we're going to be able to almost spam this, is what it feels like. We're going to go 3 points into Defensive Posture here. Increase the amount of Fortify you gain from all sources by 40%, and you gain 24% damage reduction while fortified. We're going to go 3 points into Defiance. Nature magic skills deal 28% increased damage to elites. We're going to go 3 points into Natural Disaster. Your Earth skills deal 12% increased damage to vulnerable. Your Storm skills deal 12% increased damage to enemies that are stunned, immobilized, or knocked back. We've gotten all 3 of those. We've gotten stunned from Petrify, we've gotten knocked back from Cyclone Armor, and we have immobilized from Landslide. Coming down, we're going to do 3 points into Quick Shift. When shapeshifting into a new animal, you deal 3% increased damage for 8 seconds, up to 24%. We're going to be shapeshifting constantly. Whenever we cast Landslide, we will be in a werebear form. Whenever we cast Cyclone Armor, we'll be in human form. And whenever we cast Bloodhowl, we'll be in a werewolf form. We're going to be constantly spamming all of those, so we're going to shift all the time. So this buff will always be up. We're going to do 3 points into Heightened Senses. When shapeshifting into an animal form, Werebear grants 18% damage reduction, and Werewolf grants 12% movement speed, each lasting for 6 seconds. The bonuses are doubled when they're both active. Remember, we're going to be spamming Bloodhowl, or we're going to be spamming Landslide. Those are going to change between Werebear and between Werewolf. So these bonuses will always be doubled. For the final point, we're going to be taking Nature's Fury. How Nature's Fury works. Casting an Earth skill has a 35% chance to trigger a free storm skill, the same category, and vice versa. In addition, these free skills count as both Earth and Storm. How this is going to work. We're going to be spamming Cyclone Armor. Cyclone Armor will proc a free Bulwark. Earthen Bulwark would also proc Cyclone Armor and vice versa, but because we're going to be spamming Cyclone Armor on cooldown, which is going to be very quick, we are going to constantly be casting Earthen Bulwark without actually having to cast it, which is going to be very cool because we're going to always have Unstoppable up, and we're always going to have a Barrier up. We're also going to be casting Landslide. Whenever Nature's Fury procs, it's also going to cast Lightning Storm. This is where all of the stacking of Landslide is all of a sudden going to start spawning all of these Lightning Storms. It's going to start off very, very small, and then like a storm, it just grows into a massive amount of landslides and lightning storms. That's how Nature's Fury works. We're going to be using it to proc all of the free skills and then cast skills that we don't actually need to cast for the Paragon board. In your starter board, we're going to be running Spirit. Critical strikes increase the damage an enemy takes from you by 2%, up to 12%. Moving up, we're going to be going into Constricting Tendrils. Magic skills have a 15% chance to entangle enemies with vines, immobilizing them for 2 seconds. This is also where we get our poison damage from. It's also going to poison them for 150% of the base damage, which the damage that it does is irrelevant, but this is where we get all of the points from Envenom in our skill tree. You and your companions 80% increase bonus critical strike damage against poison enemies. We're going to be getting all of that from Constricting Tendrils. In the side of this board, we're going to be running Earth and Sky. Nature magic skills deal 10% increased damage to crowd control enemies or vulnerable enemies. Moving up, we're going to be heading into the Thunderstruck board. Storm skills deal increased damage equal to 20% of your damage versus close and damage versus distant bonuses, up to 60%. How this works. I go over to my stat line, and we go all the way down to the bottom here. We're going to look at my damage versus distant. It's going to take 20% of that up to 60%. So I'm over cap right now, but that's okay because I'm still gaining additional additive damage by having that damage distant over cap. Inside of that board, we're going to be taking Werebear. you gain 15% increased damage reduction while in werebear form. Coming down, we're going to be going into the Earthen Devastation board. Your Earth skills deal 10% increased critical strike damage, increased by 20% of your total damage versus crowd control bonus. This works exactly the same way as what we were just looking at. When you look down here, my damage versus crowd control bonus. This one needs to go up just a little bit for me to hit that cap on the multiplier, but I'm very close, so I have just about enough right there. Inside of that board, we're going to be running Keeper. You and your companions deal 10% increased non-physical damage. Moving down, we're going to be going into the Survival Instincts board. While in werebear form, you deal 1% increased damage, up to 60% for every 1% difference in the current life between you and the enemies. In that board, we're going to be running Fulminate. You deal 12% increased lightning damage to both healthy and injured enemies. Healthy enemies is anything above 80%, and then injured enemies is any enemy that is below 35% life. In the next board, we're going to be taking Heightened Malice. While there are 3 or more poisoned enemies nearby, you deal 45% increased damage. And for the final board up here, all the way back up, we're going to be taking Ancestral Guidance. After spending 75 spirit, you deal 30% increased damage for 5 seconds. We are going to spam Landslide, so we're going to be spending 75 spirit very, very quickly. All right, we're going to go take a look at the gear. We're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to hop over to Mobalytics, and I'm going to go through the planner, so this way you can see what the optimal gear setup is going to be, and we can talk our way through how that's going to look, because my gear isn't quite perfect yet, but the build on Mobalytics will be. Starting with the gear. Your helmet, you're going to be running Visial's Prayer. Your Earth skills are now also werebear skills. That means that every time that we cast Landslide, we will be in werebear form. That's very important. They also are going to fortify you for 2% of your maximum life. For your masterworking here, you want to go as many points as you can into willpower. This is just going to increase the damage that you're doing. If you get something like max life or ranks to defensive posture and only 2 into willpower, that's okay. All of these are going to have triples. If you get 2 into them and then something else that is relevant, then that is okay. I know that triples are very hard to hit. I have only hit 1 myself this season. I haven't put too much time into it, but if you're not going to go for triples, at least double the ones that are supposed to be hit. For the chess piece, we're going to be running the Symbiotic aspect. When Nature's Fury key passive procs, your non-ultimate cooldowns of the opposite type are reduced by up to 5 seconds. What that means is that every time that we cast Landslide, when Nature's Fury procs, we're going to reduce the cooldown of our Cyclone Armor by up to 5 seconds. We're going to be spamming Landslide, so you're going to watch the cooldown of Cyclone Armor go by quite a lot. Now, when Cyclone Armor is being cooled down, if your Earthen Bulwark is also on cooldown, Cyclone Armor will then also reduce the cooldown of Earthen Bulwark whenever Nature's Fury procs. For the affixes on your chess piece, we're going to be running ranks to defensive skills. This is incredibly important. It doesn't have to be ranks to defensive skills. If you don't get ranks to defensive skills, you do need to find ranks to Cyclone Armor. This is how we add Cyclone Armor to our bar. We are not going to be putting any skill points in it, remember. It's going to be remaining here. But we're going to get all of those points because we're going to have either ranks to defensive or ranks to Cyclone Armor. That will allow us to put it onto our bar without having to put any skill points into it. We're going to go into willpower for your masterworking, and then for your tempering, we're going to do 1 into armor. This is how we're going to get armor capped. And then we're going to do petrify duration. Remember, whenever we kill an enemy that's under the effect of petrify, we're going to reduce the cooldown of petrify. So increasing that duration is going to help reduce that cooldown. For the gloves, we're going to be running Unsung Ascetics Wrap. Lightning Storm gains 1 additional strike each time it grows. Your Lightning Storm's critical strikes cause lightning to strike twice, dealing up to 40% increased damage. This is going to be a great source because we're going to always have Lightning Storm going. We're going to put in ranks to Lightning Storm. I showed you my ranks to Lightning Storm at the beginning here. This can go even higher. I don't have this maxed out yet. I only have plus 12 ranks here. I haven't gotten it to a triple. And we're back. I haven't gotten it to a triple. For the pants, I'm going to be running Tibolt's Will. There's a couple different options here. What Tibolt's Will does is that every time that we become unstoppable, we gain up to 20% increased damage. We also are going to gain up to 50 maximum primary resource every time that we become unstoppable. Remember when we went over the skill tree, we become unstoppable because we're going to be constantly casting a free Earthen Bulwark. Earthen Bulwark makes you unstoppable. We're always going to be getting that 20% increased damage. We're also always going to be getting that primary resource back whenever we're not stoppable and we become unstoppable. Or your masterworking crits here. I chose to go into damage reduction. There is the option to go into max life if you do want to, or you can find a good mix between the two of them. For your boots, we're going to be running Wild Heart Hunger. For this one, when you shapeshift into a werewolf or a werebear, gain Wild Heart for 5 seconds. Wild Heart grants up to 3% stacking damage every 2 seconds, up to 60%. How this works, it doesn't matter how fast you shapeshift. All that it matters is that once every 5 seconds, you shapeshift into a werebear or a werewolf. Every 2 seconds, no matter how fast you shapeshift, you're going to be gaining 3% damage, and it's going to stack up to 60%. All you have to do is make sure that at one point you switch back to either human form, and then back to werewolf, or human form back to werebear, or straight from werebear to werewolf. Whatever it is, within that 5-second window, you have to shapeshift once. We're going to shapeshift way faster than that, but that is what we're going to need to do in order to keep this damage buff up. For your masterworking, we're going to go into shape-shifting attack speed. For the weapon, there's a couple different options here. I am running Aspect of Trampled Earth. Trample now summons 6 landslide pillars. During the duration, it deals up to 100% normal damage. Trample now is also a nature magic and an earth magic skill. Whenever I use Trample, I cast Landslide. Those landslides have a chance to cast Lightning Storms. So basically, we just leave a trail behind us of our continued Lightning Storm and our landslides. This is an option that I like to use just because I like to use the movement speed and I like the Unstoppable. You can also run Retaliation here. The aspect of Retaliation, your core skills deal up to 40% increased damage based on the amount of Fortify you have. We're always fortified. This is always going to do a ton more damage. Now, if you're finding yourself running low on life or you're not surviving very well, Doombringer is a great option to run. You want to try and triple masterwork the maximum life if you can. This will be your defensive option or a great option if you're going to try and take on tier 8s and you have the damage to do it, but you just don't have the survivability. But for me, I'm going to be running the Aspect of Trampled Earth. For the affixes, we're going to be running max life, willpower, critical strike damage. For your tempers, we're going to be running damage to crowd control enemies. We're also going to be running chance to cast Landslide twice. For your offhand, we're going to be running the Aspect of Aftershock. Landslides Earth Pillars each strike a second time and deal an additional 13% bonus damage per hit. That means that every time we cast Landslide, we cast another one. And then they do additional bonus damage. The more landslides we have, the more chances we have to proc Nature's Fury, which means the more chances we have to cast Lightning Storm. For the affixes, we're going to be running max life, willpower, cooldown reduction. We're also going to be running damage to crowd control enemies, chance to cast Landslide twice. For the masterworking crits, I put 2 into cooldown reduction, and then we put 1 into crowd controlled enemies. This is because we want to get that multiplier up from the Paragon board. For the ring, we're going to be running Earthbreakers. Passive Landslide leave behind tectonic spikes that deal damage over time. Spawning a landslide pillar within a tectonic spike has a 30% chance to spawn 2 instead. 2 from your Aftershock. We also have a chance to get 2 from your Earthbreaker. This is going to give us a chance to spawn 4 total in one cast. That's more landslides, more lightning storm. For the masterworking crits on this, we're going to go all the way into attack speed. If you get attack speed and critical strike chance, that's perfectly fine also. The ranks to Landslide and the chance to cast Landslide twice isn't as important. The ring that we're going to be running here is our only Uber. This is going to be the Ring of Starless Sky. This is going to be huge because we're going to be unfortunately, the Ring of Starless Sky reduces the resource cost by up to 50%. It also gives you up to a 1.5 multiplier on your damage, which is huge just coming from a ring. We're going to go into attack speed as much as we can here because we want to be spamming Landslide as fast as possible. For your amulet, this is a tough one to get. If you cannot find an amulet like this, do not worry. It is okay. Any of them are going to be a good option for your passives. Envenom is going to be the best. Right now, currently, on my character, I'm running Envenom, but I'm also just running Spirit on Kill and then movement speed. I'm still making it through. I've cleared tier 8 already. This will be okay if you do not get it. Try to get at least Envenom first. Then if you need to get another passive, you can roll another passive. I'll probably end up re-rolling this too at some point. If you can get Defiance, Quick Shift, and Envenom, that's ideal. Very hard to get, so don't stress. And then for your tempers, we're going to be running Lucky Hit, Chance to Stun, and then Damage to Distant Enemies. And finally, for the aspect on your amulet, we're going to be running Natural Balance. Casting a Storm skill grants your Earth skills 45% increased critical strike damage. Casting an Earth skill increases the critical strike chance of your Storm skills by up to 12%. For the Spirit boons. For the Snake, we're going to be running Calm Before the Storm. Nature Magic skills have a 10% chance to reduce the cooldown of your ultimate skills by 2 seconds. This, on top of all the other cooldown reductions that go into Petrify, Petrify cools down very, very quickly. For the Wolf, this is incredibly important. Dealing damage has up to a 15% chance to restore 30 spirit. You need to have this in order to maintain enough spirit and be able to spam landslide. You're going to put your spirit boon into Eagle so we can take swooping attacks for 15% increased attack speed, as well as Avarian Wrath for 30% increased critical strike damage. For the Deer, we're going to be taking Wariness. You take 15% less damage from elites. That's going to be that's the gear and the spirit boons. Let's hop back into the game and I'll show you what the gameplay looks like and how to run this character. And now for the fun, how the build works. We're going to be spending spirit by using landslide. As we spend spirit, how are you going to recover your spirit? 1, by attacking. With our spirit boon, it's going to give us back our spirit. You can gain back spirit using Earthen Bulwark through to Bolt's Will, because this is going to make us unstoppable. What unstoppable looks like, it's these chains right above your head. When those are gone, then you can become unstoppable again, and then that will also give us additional spirit back. If you use a mechanic that gives you unstoppable while those are up, you will not get spirit back. If it's something you need to do to save yourself, like using Earthen Bulwark to keep yourself out of being killed, that's okay, do it. It'll come back up again. Once we get our buffs up and running, we start casting Landslide enough, we're going to start spamming Cyclone Armor. Cyclone Armor, once we proc Nature's Fury, we'll start casting Bulwark automatically, which will start generating additional spirit. Once you get up and running, this build just generates a ton of spirit. So we're going to start off just by casting Landslide. So as you just start casting Landslide, you should start seeing your spirit come right back up as everything starts to grow now. If you look, my spirit does not drop down very much at all because the chance of our boon to give us back our spirit. Now we're going to start adding in all of our skills. We use Cyclone Armor. If you watch the cooldown on Cyclone Armor, it comes up very quickly as we proc Nature's Fury. So now we want to make sure that we keep our shapeshifting going. So now it goes into a human form as we spam this, and we can cast Werewolf by hitting your Bloodhowl. So now we add Petrify in, and now if you watch the cooldowns as they start to go, because we can't kill anything in here, Bloodhowl's not cooling down, but when we are inside of the hordes, Bloodhowl will cool down very quickly. As you can see, it is a massive boost of numbers. They're all over the place. There's a whole bunch of different things to watch out for, but as you shapeshift, we're going to go into a werewolf form. This is going to be your proc from your Wild Heart Hunger. See, it's gone away because I haven't shapeshifted again. So I cast this, it comes back. We start stacking, I cast again, and now I keep up that buff. So as long as I shapeshift once every 5 seconds, I'm going to make sure that I maintain that Wild Heart Hunger, and it's going to slowly tick up. The more monsters we can have out, the longer, the higher that buff is going to get. That's the build. You guys saw the planner. It is the optimal setup. My gear is not perfect. My stats are not perfect. So when you build your character, if you can find some of those things that I'm missing, it's going to make your character even better. Let me know what you think of the build in the comments. I'm super excited for everybody to try this. I am live on YouTube and Twitch every night. Stop by, Theorycraft with me. Catch you on the clip side.